you are truly what we call a Renaissance man. Your background in journeys is just phenomenal. And so right now you're living on the Garden Isle of Kauai in Hawaii. Can you tell us, after, extensive travel that you've been doing in the entire world, is there a specific reason, other than, of course, that island is so beautiful, why you chose to live there? And we'd also love to hear about your connection to the whales.
Absolutely. They go hand in hand. So it was really the whales, the kohola in the Hawaiian word name, the name for it. They called me here because I was living in the desert. I was in the mountain deserts of Sedona, Arizona for 15 years. And that's where actually I got really connected to all the indigenous music and started making Native American flutes and the Australian didgeridoo and all these types of sounds that would help one to journey. But it was really when I came to visit Kauai for the first time that I had an experience with the whales. And they come every winter. It's like family returning for Christmas and for the holidays, which they're here for about 5 months. And when they come, there's so much love present around the island. You can feel them because they come here to have babies. So they're making love and they're loving their babies. And so there's all this really beautiful joy. And their hearts are humongous. They're the largest hearts on the planet, sometimes 500 pounds. Could you imagine the heart chakra of a 500-pound heart? We know the human heart can reach out miles, right? And so the coherency that comes with their love and their frequency and their songs. So what was so magical was when I started being able to go into the waters with them and hearing their beautiful music. And then this became something that was very, very life changing. Was I kept having a recurring dream where I would be very, very close up to the whales and they would be staring at me, this one in particular. And it was like, the eye of God in a way. It's like this universal cosmic, mystery that was staring into my soul. And then it would send me, in my dream time, it was sending me the most exquisite unconditional love that was like in technicolor, and so it was something that I thought, wow, wouldn't that be amazing? And then one day I got really lucky and was invited on my friend's boat in Maui. And you know, the whales are interesting because you're not allowed to go and be with the whales, especially in Hawaii. There are other places in the world where you can be with the whales. Um, so it's impossible to go chase a whale as a swimmer. However, if the whales decide to come to you, that's a whole different story. And so, on this very special catamaran, so very quiet, very peaceful, and it was just one of those moments where I just had to get in the water. It was so beautiful, and had my snorkel on, and as soon as I left the boat, there it was, this incredible, beautiful humpback whale that was just maybe 20 feet below the boat. I had no idea it was.
Oh my gosh. I have
And
goosebumps.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. You can imagine my goosebumps. It was like the most exhilarating thing because it was the first time I'd been so close up to the whales. And then it was this whole experience that started where I was just floating above and connecting in, and then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, baby whales decides to come up from beneath mama. I'd been there for about 10 minutes, it seemed, and I didn't see any other whales. And all of a sudden, from around its giant body comes this head coming right towards me. And I thought, oh my God, is this whale gonna breach on me? Because that would be, very scary and quite fatal, possibly. So
Oh my
all of a
goodness.
sudden, all this love went to like oh my God, this could be like the end. Like what a way to go, right? And then at the very last second, as it was just coming up so quickly, it just slowed right down. And as it slowed down, it came up and started passing by me. And as it passed by me, it just kind of paused, and there was my dream. The eye of that whale, just we just had this connection, and I'm in tears as my
Yeah.
snorkel goggles fill with water. So it was that kind of timeless time in being with them. And then as that whale turned and went off, all of a sudden my periphery I could see for the first time the mama whale started to move, and it started coming up, and then it made its kind of drive by, so to speak. And as it came, you know 4 times the size of the baby, and I was just like, I'd never
Oh,
been around a creature that massive and that much love and that beauty, and gently lifted its fin just so it wouldn't, within inches. And it totally was this awareness that you could feel, it was palpable, and it was just the most incredible experience. And then out of nowhere, the male escort came and did the same thing. So it was like the holy trinity that day, and the dream was complete. And I knew why I had arrived in Hawaii, and they became really my next level of teachers for sound healing because of the amount of unconditional love through their vibration and their song. And so I ended up designing and creating a whole CD. I got a hold of a whale recording and studied it and listened to it from like a musical jam perspective. And what would it be like to jam with the whales? Because they're already the most amazing composers, right? They make songs that sometimes last 15 minutes to 45 minutes, and then they repeat. Imagine a song that's it repeats after every 45 minutes. And so it's an incredible experience. And then that's what happened. I wrote a whole CD around this whale song and listened to their key they were in, their rhythm, their movements. And so that was a really fun project that when I really landed and finally decided to come here, that was what was birthed through the experience. And ever since, after listening so much, I was able to start making whale songs and singing and speaking in that's everyone thinks it's they can't tell the difference. And so it was a really weird thing that started happening that I was like, how does this how can I do this? So along the way of all really the whole time in making and playing these instruments in my life, music has just been a mystery. And it's something that just comes through. It's like being the participant observer in the physics experiment. It's like it's playing through me. I'm totally aware. I'm observing. I have to do some technical things with either my mouth or my fingers, and then it's like, but the music comes through. It's almost like I can hear it in the moment it's happening, and create that way. And so that's been a big foundation of how I started the shamanic journey into dreamtime work years and years ago, almost 25 years ago now, which is hard to believe. And
you're
that
blessed to have experienced that, John. I'm in awe. I mean, clearly that's why you decided to live in Hawaii. Absolutely beautiful.
of course, besides the beauty and the
True,
fruit
true.
tree, surfing, all these things kind of became part of the. For me, it's always been an immersion. So, moving out west from Massachusetts, where I was born, it was like moving to Sedona was like going to Mars. I mean, red earth, canyons. I mean, it was unlike anything I'd ever could ever imagine, even. And so you start to, for me anyway, it's like a connection to the environment. The environment always influences me. That's why I think music also, different music from different cultures. And I love to combine and fuse together all this in in one song sometimes, and work with the different, as a multi-instrumentalist, to work with all these different paintbrushes, because music is, to me, it is a like painting. And that was my background. I was an art major, I was a painting major. So the brushes are the different instruments, the flutes, right? And they're all different sizes and shapes and tones. And the paint is the seven colors, or do re mi fa sol la ti do, right? So we have this palette of sound, and there's a correlation there, and it's pretty magical to connect all these dots together. There was an expression I learned along the way, the beauty way, and it's become a philosophy of my life to live from that place, is the beauty way. And what does that mean to me? And so I was drawn to art from the time I was in high school, and kind of those next steps of, okay, what am I going to do when I grow up? What am I going to major in college? What am I going to do with my life? And my my biggest passion at that time, it wasn't music. I wasn't playing music until later, until college. But the somehow that the painting, the time that I would spend with the canvas and the oils and brushstrokes, and it was just such a beautiful expression. And it was something I always did as like a therapy also. If I was having a not a great day, so to speak, it would be like I would just go in my room, put on the radio or put on, you know, different music that I loved and just start creating with sometimes with all kinds of medium, right? And so, um, but painting was a whole other next level of things. And so the beauty way through arts, it music was like another overlay to that. And making the instruments was another overlay to that. So it was almost like everything I was doing was culminating into this beauty way to express through first the hearts, and to me this is the hidden chord that is talked about. It's like, what is that hidden note, what is that hidden chord? And it's really the emotion and the feeling that the musician is putting forth, right? So when you pick up an instrument, it's how you work with it, or your voice or anything. It's because it's all through the emotion, and that emotion can be love very easy because it's I love what I do. I love the opportunity. I love to be able to play these instruments because they're so much fun, and I have a connection to them, especially the ones that I've created and made myself. And so it's like, for a man to make birth, to give birth to something is kind of like that, right? So I can only imagine what it's like for a woman to actually birth a baby. So this is such a deep soul, in a way, connection to these, kind of material objects, but they take on a personality, they take on a life. And so the music that's produced, especially from the flute, always connected to me with the beauty way. It was something that, people of all ages, didn't matter, from young kids even to animals to old folks. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just something about that instrument that draws them. It's like, it's just such a beautiful tone. Now I'll play for you guys in a little bit, so we'll have an experience
Super.
with.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you went into your journey into art and things very naturally from the sounds. It was just something that was in your heart. Um, and but is there some advice you can give people that have a desire to try music and arts, and but they face the fears? Maybe they think, oh, I can't do it, or some sort of rejection for whatever reason, or self-judgment.
Oh yeah, that's huge and that's common. And even when I was in art school, it was amazing how I just thought everybody was like me and we just loved doing art. So we went to art school, and, but so many people were so shy, and, they didn't have that kind of connection to be so creative and express. Like, so I can relate it sometimes more to music, especially when I'm using my voice, because that was something that was always very kind of scary to me, and I felt, not good enough and all these things. And so it was something that I personally had to overcome. And how I do this is by actually using that vulnerability, using the fear, using the I'm not good enoughs, and using that as fuel. So it's like, when you can get to that place, it's so authentic, it's so genuine. And it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. From that perspective, it's like giving a child a big hug for, doing a good job, or even just trying to sing or trying to do anything. It's that encouragement. So it's kind of like the inner the inner parent, the inner coach, encouraging the part of you that's insecure, that, okay, we can do this. And it doesn't matter if you mess up or not. It's not about being perfect. And so this is a very different approach to art than going to like a classical training in music, or even art school. Like art school, I had teachers that totally uninspired me because they have it's like you do it the way they want you to do it, and it's very technical. I'm like, what the heck? That's not art. That's not expressing myself. And so I made that promise with myself that when I discovered music, I would never go and train or go to school for it. And everything would be from just the feeling, and from the enjoyment of just being playful with it, and finding that playfulness gives permission. And so that vulnerability actually, it starts to allow even more spirit, more of your soul, the higher self, to come through. And so that's what I would encourage people, is that your I'm not good enough are your best friend. That's actually the fuel to push you, to get you there, and then to use that energy, right? Because it's energy. It can be inspiration. That insecurity can be like, wow, okay, here we go. Let's just go for it. And then the more you do it, of course, the more practiced and seasoned and things start to happen. That's why in any type of music, practice, 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 practice. And the more you practice, the more, your music's just going to get better. So,
So embracing is what you're basically saying. Embrace, someone has a desire to do something, embrace that and just allow vulnerability, you can just be vulnerable.
exactly. Because it can, that can be fun too. First, of course, you have to be interested. You have to be inspired. Like, why do I play the guitar? Why do I play the flute? Why do I play the didgeridoo? Now, not everybody wants to be a multi-instrumentalist. I'm an Aquarian, so for me, if I just did one thing in my life, that would be kind of boring. So I like to play around with all kinds of different color palettes. When I'm doing a painting, I want to use mixed media. I want to use different brushes. I don't want to use the same brush all the time, right? So it's I never ever ever imagined that I would be a multi-instrumentalist. That was like the furthest thing from my mind. I just wanted to play like one song on guitar. That was my musical ambition when I began music. And I struggled with the guitar for years and never thought that I would find an instrument like the Native American flute where I would just felt one with, that I could just completely, it was it was something that just was like it all clicked. Everything that I had learned with guitar was now easily expressed through the flute. And that was something that I had to just trust again and just be so inspired. It didn't matter if I made
Hmm.
mistakes. Now it helps to have an instrument like a flute where it's actually kind of hard to make a mistake because the way it's made and tuned, it's kind of like a little bit of a musical cheat because it's in a pentatonic scale, which you can't really hit a wrong note as long as you stay in that scale. And so flutes are actually a wonderful way, an entry point into music. That's why I've been teaching people how to play flute for years now. It's as soon as I started making them, I started teaching it because I love seeing that light bulb and inspiration in people, and that that connection to the breath, to the spirit, and a way for them to be inspired like I was, and share that, right?
Oh,
Well,
thanks for sharing, John. Sorry. Yeah, I think you've helped people who want to just go ahead and do it.
Yes. Yeah.
you're so down to earth and easygoing, and your personality, I think, is easy for others to be around. So, you can use that and to teach people an instrument. But you've also led groups all over the world. And what I'm fascinated with are the sacred sites that you've chosen. And I would love for you to give us a little bit of information about how you felt, like say, for instance, in the Egyptian pyramids, and did you go to Stonehenge in England as well?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had to.
So what was that like? And how many people do you take on these guided tours with you?
Sometimes it's just one or two, or sometimes it's 30. Depends on the trip, and it's definitely been one of the perks of the job, right? As a sound healer, uh, group, leader, teacher, whatever you want to call these labels. I'm not into the label of it, but it all started, living in Sedona, because Sedona is a power spot. It's a sacred site. And so I got really used to that. But even before that, when I was growing up in Massachusetts, we would summer in Newport, Rhode Island, and there were these like really beautiful old mansions, and the history. And I was a tour guide. My first job was really leading a group of people through this mansion and telling stories and making them laugh,
Really?
having fun. So go figure. I then became a
Go figure.
a musician. So being on stage and being in front of a group and sharing knowledge and telling stories was something that I've been doing since I was like 16 years old, right? And so it was so the sacred sites, as a perk of the job, as I was saying, is just like, oh my God, to be able to go and bring the ceremony that I do with sound and guide people and to help them journey, um, then to do it at a sacred site just enhances the whole experience, right? So that's what power spots do. So Sedona, living in one, my God, it was like so much prolific and so much energy, and the the growth that happens when you're living in these places. That's why I'm on Kauai also. So being drawn to this place because here I'm so close to the ocean and being around nature, being around the we can hear the roosters in the background. It's quite, I don't know if you can hear those, but the whole experience of a power spot is the energy is just more heightened. It's kind of like we have these inner power spots, right? We call them chakras. We call it they're energetic kind of crossroads where all these meridians are kind of meeting up, and so it's just and each one has its own kind of feeling to it, right? And so the energy of Sedona is different from Egypt versus Kauai, or in England, Stonehenge, or the places I've been in Asia. Some of these amazing places. 'Cause that's where I spent a lot of my last few years. Has been traveling in Asia. So yeah, it doesn't. It's it's something that I just feel very blessed and have had this opportunity to play in these sacred places because the sound gets really amplified and enhanced, especially in the pyramids. My God! So if you have an acoustic chamber, and even like some of the Mayan temples, they worked, these ancient people, they were so extremely advanced in ways that they understood echoes and sound and natural reverb and all these things. I have to go on my iPad and, got to dial in all these like echoes and timing and beats and like that, right? So they just had it all done out of stone. Just you had to just show up and start playing the instruments. And so
Did you have
yeah.
to ask permission?
Oh, of course, you have to get
Yeah.
all kinds of special permission to do these things. And it's part of the whole Kokopelli, the Pied Piper, and the Gemini. We can call it the Gemini archetype. Is you just kind of get like backstage passes to life when you have this Gemini archetype running through your charts. You can do things that most people don't get a chance or opportunity to do. It's like you're backstage. You're able to bring through the merriment, through the as the bard, right? So it's the sacred bard. It's like doors open. It's the court jester, right? It's the fool. You're not foolish. You actually know the game, but because you know the game, you can kind of play around with that and start. You have these opportunities, and
And be willing to try.
well, that's the thing. You have to show up. I mean,
Yeah.
You got to be willing to go into new adventure and new places and explore and trust.